Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheila with this week's story. Our story is called A Coincidence. Well, Emily, she had been saving for almost a whole year for a brand new girls' mountain bike. She knew just what she wanted. So every month she had kept every penny of her allowance. And then she started getting jobs in the neighborhood. Yes, little jobs, but every penny seemed to add up. Now she had $40-some. And she looked kind of sadly at it. Her dad said, "What's wrong? You've been doing so well. We're so proud of you." And she said, "I don't think I'm going to be able to get enough by January. That's what I had planned. But it just seems like it's not growing very fast." Well, Father tried to encourage her. So she kept going. She kept saving every penny she could save. Well, one day Father said, "Why don't you and I go to look at some comparison shopping? You know, comparing one bicycle to another to see which was the best for the money." So they went and they looked in different shops. And yes, there were some bicycles that Emily could afford, but they weren't the shiny, wonderful, nice ones that Emily wanted, a girl's mountain bike. Well, she'd almost decided that she was just going to have to be content with something less. Well, as they came out of one of the stores, right in front of them was a Salvation Army volunteer collecting money. He had his bell, and he was shaking it and shaking it. That was what called the people to come give money. Well, Emily, she saw that, and she thought, Then she turned to her dad, and she said, "Can't we give some money, Dad?" And Dad said, "Well, I don't have any change right now." So no more was said, and they went home. Well, Emily decided to keep trying to make enough for that other bicycle. Well, that night, Emily got an impression. The story doesn't really say whether she had a dream or if God just talked to her. I don't know for sure. But the next morning she came downstairs, came into the kitchen where her mother, who was named Diane, was standing. And she said, "Mother, I've decided to give all my money to the poor." And her mother looked at her, and she got down. She knelt right in front of her. Emily was 9, and she wasn't very tall or very big. And Mother said, "Well, Emily, why don't you just give some of it? You know, that would be a wonderful sacrifice for you to give for the poor." But Emily, she started shaking her head. "No, no, no, no." She said, "God said all of it. I have to give all of it. Well, Mother wasn't going to argue against God. So, the next Sunday, Mother and Dad had suggested all kinds of places that she could donate her money. But she said, no, I can't. God told me exactly where to give it. So that Sunday, her parents headed out with her to the nearest Salvation Army corner, where there was a man shaking his bell to draw people to give money for the poor. And she walked just stately-like over to that man that was dressed like a Santa Claus and ringing that bell. And to his kind of shock, she reached down and got all of her money. And she stuck it out like this in her hands. And she said, this is for your kittle, where the money goes. He could hardly believe it. A little tiny girl bringing him now $58. That's a lot of money for a small child. But her parents were here with her. So he thought, I guess I'm supposed to take it. And he thanked her. And she rushed off. When she got home, her father said, Emily, don't you want one of my bikes? And she looked at her dad and she said, they're old, Dad. Well, Emily was right. His bikes were old because he was a collector of vintage bikes. So most of his girls' bikes were 1950 models that were all shiny and beautiful, but they didn't look like the new bikes. So Father didn't say any more. Well, that same day, he saw an advertisement. There was a car dealer, and the man who owned it ran an advertisement saying, please donate old bicycles that we can refurbish to give children for Christmas. Well, he thought, if my daughter can give every penny she's got to the poor, I surely can give something too. So he went out to his garage where those old bicycles were all lined up in a row. And he looked around and he decided on one that was shiny and looked a little better than the others. And he picked it up and he put it in the trunk of his car. Well, he looked back around and he saw something very unusual. There was another bike, and it was actually glowing. And he thought, am I supposed to give 2 bikes? And he thought, surely one is enough. And then he thought, if my daughter can listen to God's instructions about what to do with her money, surely I can listen to him too. So he went back in the garage and he picked up that second bicycle and he put it in the trunk. Well, he drove to that car dealership and he opened the trunk and he gave those 2 bikes to the man there. And the man said, you're going to make 2 kids very happy at Christmas. Well, then he stuck out 2 tickets that he had in his hand. And he said, these are for you. And Dad, he looked at the tickets and he said, what are they for? And then the man said, well, we decided that we would find someone to donate a prize to one of the people that gave bicycles. And the prize is being given by a bicycle shop downtown. It's a brand new men's mountain bike. And he gave him 2 tickets, not just one. He said 1 for each bicycle. And they had numbers on them, so the man there and the man at the bicycle shop would know which bicycle it was that had won the prize. Well, I don't think he thought that he would win at all with those 2 tickets, but it wasn't long till he was notified that bicycle number 2, not bicycle number 1, the one that God had chosen, had won a brand new mountain bike. And Mother was laughing. She said, I can't believe that you won. And he said, I didn't win, Diane. Emily won. I know that was what God had planned. So they went down to the bicycle shop to pick up that mountain bike. And the man was easily persuaded to make it a girl's mountain bike instead of a man's mountain bike. Emily was so excited. Now tell me, do you think it was a coincidence that Emily won the bicycle? I don't think so. God was responsible for paying Emily for her kind gesture to help the poor. Do you know that the Bible says that God will reward people for sacrificing and giving for others? Let me read the verse from the Bible to you. It's Luke 6:38, and this is the New International Version. It says, give and it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. They will pour into your lap. For whatever measure you deal out to others, it will be dealt to you in return. I think God rewarded Emily, don't you? And he rewarded Dad also for listening to him and giving 2 bikes, not 1. Thank you, boys and girls, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.